What's up, ladies and gentlemen? I am Dylan, the TechnoGiz guy, and today I'm showing you how to do something that Apple doesn't want you to know how to do. This is my MacBook. Specifically, this is an M2 base model MacBook Air from 2022. It is not last year's model, it is the year before that. So this is not an M3, this is an M2. It is a base model. And whether you are on M2, M3, or M1, there is a little problem with the base model chips. That problem is they do not allow you to hook more than 2 external displays up at a time, unless you have the Max or the Pro. Now, I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure that does not apply to M1. M1 across the board only did 1 external display. M2 allowed 1 external display, as well as the laptop display, unless you got the Pro or the Max. And then with M3, you could do 1 external display or 2 if you closed the lid of your laptop. As you guys know, I like screens, and I like many screens. You can watch my video unboxing my new screens right up here. I wanted to use this a little bit as my primary laptop. As you can see, my primary laptop, my 2018 Razer Blade Pro, has taken the place of my MacBook. That is because not only am I carrying my MacBook every day, which is why it was originally on that spot, but now it has been my main machine for a few days. It's a little underpowered, and I still find myself going to that for a few things. But until December, when I get my new Mac for my desktop for actual video work, I gotta do what I gotta do. This is a sub $100 dock. Now, we'll come back to this dock in a second, but I wanted to mention it first. Remember, this is sub $100. Right now, as of recording this video, it is $99 on Amazon for this exact dock. This is a dock by the same company, Pluggable, except this one is a Thunderbolt 3 dock. In fact, this one was my primary dock for a while, and up until recently, still was on my desk running my monitors, since my laptop does not have 2 display outputs. Well, technically. Story for another time. When I bought this little guy, it was $230. That's what I paid for it. Now you can get this same one for about $150 on Amazon, but still significantly more expensive than this one. Okay, well, they can't be that different, right? Oh, but they are. You see, this is a Thunderbolt dock, meaning that the display outputs that are on the back do not go over USB. They go over Thunderbolt. Thunderbolt, in the most complete layman's terms, is really close to PCI Express. So graphics and things like that work really well. Also works natively. There's no trickery, which is why this expensive Thunderbolt dock that even charges computers, why this expensive dock will not allow you to have more monitors on a Mac. This one will. The cheap dock will let you have multiple monitors. It's not the only piece of the puzzle. You need a little piece of software, but as long as you have that software, you're good. By the way, that software is free, and if you're worried about its sketchiness, it actually comes from the DisplayLink protocol people, aka the people who make the protocol that this uses, and that's what we're going to talk about. I want to talk about what this is doing before I show you how to set it up, because setting this up is ridiculously easy. First, I want to tell you guys how this is working. As I said, this dock, and more specifically, more importantly, its display outputs do not run over USB. They run directly through the chipset. In this case, in my laptop, that is the Intel chip. This cheap little dock uses DisplayLink for its display outputs. If you don't know what that is, I'm going to kind of try to explain this briefly. Essentially, it's a way of running a display adapter over USB. It's not a new standard by any means. It's actually been around for, I think, more than a decade. All it is just a cheap little way of getting display outputs via USB. So For example, it doesn't say DisplayLink on it, but this little USB 3 to dual HDMI device probably uses DisplayLink, or probably uses a pretty close version of it. In theory, I could try hooking this up to the Mac, but I would need a dongle. Who cares if my display is running over USB or if it's running over, PCI Express derivative, basically direct attached to the chipset. There's a big difference, because there's a big difference in how Mac and Windows handle desktops, specifically virtual desktops. Now, I got this idea because one of the things I am able to do is plug an external display into my MacBook Air and then mirror my MacBook Air or extend it to my iPad wirelessly, which told me right off the bat that even if there is a hardware limitation, macOS is doing something a little weird. Then I thought about how Linux runs their desktop environment. It's run kind of as a virtual application, which is why in Linux environments, using the terminal often has better results for administrative tasks. Whereas in Windows, the entire GUI is one of the foundational layers of the OS, which also makes Windows super easy to exploit. And I have a video about that coming eventually as well. So basically, macOS handles desktops similarly, if not almost the same, as Linux, where the GUI is not actually a fundamental portion of the underlying operating system. And because of that, it gives them a little bit of flexibility. They're able to, mirror your iPad or mirror your screen to your iPad, or even extend and use an iPad as a virtual monitor. And that's not new tech. Apple made it good and they made it work, but that kind of stuff's been around for a while. Wacom has been doing that literally since like the 90s, I think. However, we can exploit that. One of the things that is really fortunate is the M series chips have a really high, ridiculously high maximum screen resolution, like 6K or something like that. Well, that seems to work for me because I run both of my 4K monitors in 1440p because macOS display scaling is garbage. But what are you going to do? So I run the two displays in 1440p unless I need the 4K. With macOS, I don't seem to mind it as much as in Windows, but that actually, using the software that I'm going to show you guys, will actually allow you to split that 6K resolution up to multiple displays virtually. And since this little guy uses DisplayLink, the display ports on it are actually set up to be virtual displays. Here's the kicker, guys. You don't actually have to plug in both monitors to this. And I'm gonna kind of tell you why you don't want to do that in a second. Let me switch the camera around, let's get this set up, and then I'll show you guys some of the pros, the cons, and why this works, but it's not super perfect. Okay, guys, so we are at my desk. Sorry for the mess. Got the dock. I already had this wired up, so I'm just going to wire this up. So luckily, this dock comes with Ethernet, which I'm actually going to take full advantage of. It comes with these, I call them printer cables, but they're technically not. These are, I believe the name for this is USB Type B, but because it's like Extendo Boy and it's blue, it's a USB 3.0 version, obviously. It's just the 3.0, it's the USB 3 version of the B connector. So like a normal B connector would work in there, but you would only get USB 2 speeds. I'm going to use the kind of cheap printer port. Plug that in. This is the HDMI going from my monitor. And then this is the power. Plug in the power. Now out of this, you get 4 USB 4 ports, another HDMI, and there's 2 USB 3 ports on the front. They also have ones of these that are also DisplayLink, but have more USB 3 ports. As well as DisplayPort instead of HDMI, if that's your fancy. So I went handheld, so forgive me if the footage is a little shaky here. But I wanted to show something. So I have the cable from the dock. It's in this tangled mess here. It runs and plugs into the bottom of my primary display. Hello. My primary display. That is really important because the next step of this is going to be to take the USB-C cable that comes out of the back of my primary display and plug it into my MacBook. Here's why this is important. Whatever display you want to be primary, you probably don't want to run through that. Run it, if possible, directly through the port on your MacBook, and then use USB or something like that to break out this for the other display. There's a small quality drop. It's noticeable to probably anybody who sees it, even if you're not a nerd like me. But yeah, keep that in mind. Your primary monitor, which in this case is this one for me, should be direct wired, or at least not running over DisplayLink. Okay, so we have the Mac plugged in, but as you can see, all it did was give me my one monitor, which I hope that didn't screw up OBS too much. But to show you, okay, so you can see that with the monitor plugged in, it's only seeing it's only seeing the two monitors. Even if I close the lid of the laptop, it's still only going to see one. Let's fix that. I'm going to come down and open up Safari. In Safari, you're going to want to look up DisplayLink Manager. The first or second link should be from the Synaptics website. That's the one you want to go to. So we're here on the Synaptics website. Sure, you guys can have my cookies. So we're going to download the DisplayLink Manager. I'm going to accept that. I'm going to allow downloads. All right. We're going to open the package file that came in that download. Run through. Yeah, I'm going to assume you read all this, right? Agree. All that. Just like that. All three monitors work. Also, notice that none of them are clones. So, for example, like this monitor has my dock. It's got that folder. This monitor has nothing. And this monitor has the web page that we were just on. All right, guys. So, something you'll probably notice is, if you come down here, there is now a DisplayLink Manager in your taskbar on the Mac. By default, launch automatically is not checked. I had to check that. You may also get some like security pop-up things, like it's going to ask you, are you sure you want to allow this app and things like that. Just allow them all. I uninstalled mine, so I think it remembered a lot of the security settings. But use the experimental modes, launch automatically after login. That's all you really have to change and mess with. And now if I come up here, we go to the system settings. Now we see we have the built-in display, we have the two sub-monitors, and yeah, you can see this defaults to 1080p, but then I run it at 1440. Now I'm going to try to switch OBS here. Okay, so now you can see this. I don't know what to do about the black bars. That'll work. So this monitor here is the one that is linked in to the DisplayLink, and now that I'm actually looking at this, it actually looks fine on my view window, but it does not look as fine here. Anyway, what I was trying to illustrate and show is that the different monitors have a noticeable quality difference, even though they're running at the same resolution and they are identical monitors. It's not a fault of the monitors. It's the DisplayLink fault. So the monitor that is my primary monitor is real sharp and crisp and looks nice. The monitor that is my secondary display is a little fuzzy. Like, it looks like anti-aliasing needs to be turned on. I messed around with the settings. I can't figure out how to change that or fix it. I don't understand. I don't know if it's an Apple problem or if it's just a DisplayLink limitation because it's running over USB. I have no idea. But this is a workable way to get two displays external on your MacBook that does not have a M2 Pro or Max chip or M3 Pro or Max. And it should work on all generations of the M series chipset. So this should work on M1, should work on M2, should work on M3, and it'll probably work on M4 when that comes out too. You could absolutely set this up in an environment where maybe your laptop is in front of you and you have two monitors, or you have the laptop off to the side. And in reality, there's nothing stopping you from probably adding a third monitor. You might start running into limits of just resolution and what the computer itself can generate, but that's a different story. You guys will have to be the deciding factor for that. If you're somebody who has a MacBook Air, MacBook Pro from the recent years, you're on an Apple Silicon and you didn't splurge and you didn't buy the the Pro or the Max chip, and you don't have an M3, so you can't even get away with closing the lid. This is a really solid way. I mean, I complain about the blurriness, but it is only noticeable because I have a monitor directly next to it to look at. Actually, I have two, because my MacBook is sitting open in front of my secondary display. I can literally look between them and see the fuzziness in the font. The other really cool thing is if, like me, you have an iPad that you occasionally use for Sidecar, you can actually use Sidecar with this. So like, we could just mirror the screen or extend it to my iPad, have 4 screens, and we could get another monitor on the dock. Then I could plug in a USB monitor, plug in this one. We could really push this MacBook Air to its limits. I'm Dylan, the TechnoGiz guy. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a like. If you're new to the channel and you like what you see, please subscribe. If you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, drop them down below because I read them all. I'm happy to engage. Love you guys. See you in the next one. Keep it peaceful.